Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. Welcome to the F4L Headquarters Podcast. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, you guys are too much really. Well, folks, it has been a little bit since our last show. This show will be pretty epic. It's Sunday. It's 4:41. So first and foremost, you know it's going to be an epic show considering we're starting around 4 o'clock, and we all know 4s are lucky numbers. So this should be pretty exciting, especially here at the F4L Headquarters. We do have a stacked show today. And, you know, most people who listen to this show on a regular basis, which, by the way, shout out to all you guys who listen to our show on a regular basis, kind of often wonder, I get a lot of emails asking me, you know, my preparation for one of these shows is, you know, do I write everything out? Do I dialogue it? Do I, script it? Do I use AI to write my show? And first and foremost, no, I don't use AI to write my show because, well, for one thing, I don't trust the AI will actually come up with the same ideas I have. And nor do I believe that the AI will have the same intellect that I do, nor do I think that they would share my opinions. So a lot of the times I do this show without a safety net, so to speak. And I guess that's a throwback to my wrestling days and my time in pro wrestling where for the most part, a lot of my training was learning how to do promos and do them well. Promos are a very important part of a wrestling career. Being able to tell a story with your words, sometimes without words. And one of the things I'm very grateful to my trainers who trained me, the late great Walter Killer Kowalski, Slick Wagner Brown, who's still very much alive and well, and also a really good friend and mentor. And the other people who took time during that era to help me around my raise to get to be where I am. I talked before about how my training was, how they would, prior at the end of each wrestling lesson in wrestling school, after being thrown around the ring and doing all the physical stuff, it was customary at the end of each session that I would have to cut a promo, which again is talking words on a microphone or whatever, and cut a promo on each person who was at the school. And if the character was a heel, which is a bad guy, or a face, which is a good guy, I had to go in and out of my own character to do those promos. It was a way for me to become, one, comfortable with being able to cut promos, and also to be versatile, to be able to cut a heel or a face promo. And I think one of the most intimidating times that I had was when we had special visitors at one point, early days. This is in 1999, when I was about to finish in wrestling school. And we had two visitors from a well-known wrestling establishment and also two former trained wrestlers from our school. The late, great John Cronus and the great Perry Saturn, who I don't think gets nearly as much credit as he should. For those people who don't know, those in old school ECW, they were the Eliminators in old school ECW. And I often wonder, looking back, if they were developmental in Paul Heyman giving me my first job in wrestling. Granted, I know that Kowalski, one of his things that he would do is set you up with a contract with a place after you're done. But I often wonder if that promo, having them there, helped. Because I'll tell you, it was intimidating to cut a promo against people who, are as intimidating and legitimately as tough as, John Cross and Perry Saturn. A lot of those things that helped was the fact that I generally don't have a lot of fear, and I speak from the cuff. So a lot of it is improv, and a lot of it is on the spot. What do you do if you forget the line? Nowadays, I mean, everything is all scripted. Everyone has lines they have to deliver. They have to hit their marks. Otherwise, if they miss a line, much like in a movie or a project of any other kind, that will throw off the whole promo or, whatever they're trying to do. And that could honestly ruin the whole, experience for everybody. Now, working at an independent level, you got a live microphone in front of a large group of audience. You can't miss. In all honesty, in wrestling is no different than stage play or live performance because it is live. It is in person, and much like the circus, unlike the tightrope walker, there is no safety net. When you mess up, it's live, and the crowd will let you know that you messed up, especially early ECW. So I'm thankful to them for helping me to become the promo person that I am. I also want to apologize to you guys because in the middle of me doing the show, I prepared my dinner early. A very healthy meal. I basically made rice with vegetables and chicken. And no, there's no fancy anything else in it. Very bland meal. And helping me get back into the shape that I want to be in. So there you go. Anyway, and I'm drinking milk. Because milk does a body good. Says those old PSAs we grew up with. All right. So that being said, the long story part of that was the moral of that whole run-on dialogue was that no, I don't generally make notes before doing a show. Someone asked me one time before having someone on a podcast if I could put together a list of questions I usually ask my guests. And I feel like it oftentimes takes away from the experience. See, I want the experience when they come to the F4L Headquarters Podcast to be a natural one and to be one that, people understand, respect, and also they can just be themselves. And I like to feel like a conversation that two people are having, just a bunch of other people listening to the conversation. Like, say if you go to your friend's house and you guys are having a conversation about, movies or how they got to be somewhere. That's kind of the idea. And I want it to feel natural and fun and spontaneous. A question might come up, and that's when you kind of address those things. Of course, the preliminary question is, introducing the person to the rest of the world and why do people know who you are? Why are you here? On this show, we've had a variety of people from all walks of everything. We've had everything from actors, musicians, comedians, YouTubers, wrestlers, podcasters, regular everyday people, actors, musicians, like I said, authors, a little bit of everything on the show, and and also athletes, of course. And I always take each show individually for what they are. They might go in a completely different, mind or different place. So you never know. Another question I get a lot is how long do people come on a podcast for? Is a very common question. I like to leave that up to the guest. And I'm going to tell you this, being honest, from this show's perspective. Anyone who's listened to our early shows can probably contest to the fact, which, by the way, you can listen to on Spotify or anywhere else that podcasts can be heard on the F4L Headquarters Podcast. You will find us there. And if you go and search some of those early ones when we have guests, you can kind of get an idea and actually can, a guest might come on the air prior to coming on and say, well, I only have so long to be on the show, or I don't know how much I can talk, or, whatever else the case may be. But what ends up happening is, in all honesty, it's a good thing, is the fact that they come on the show and you just feel so natural talking, you have such a great time, that time just slips by. You don't really keep track of a 15-minute appearance like you do other places. I like it to be, again, natural and honest. Clearly, I can't talk to someone for 24 hours because, heck, who can? But, on average, a lot of our shows, people will say, well, I don't know how much I can talk. Probably can only do maybe 30 minutes. And 30 minutes, turns into we getting the warning sign because we only have 20 minutes left of a 2-hour show. That was the old school now. This format gives me a little bit more leeway. I can go a little bit longer, knock on wood. And I also have options where it's not just my voice you get to hear, but also that we have times when we have guests, we can actually have those face-to-face interviews and provide you guys with the video part of our conversation as well. And you can kind of see that it's kind of the same idea, hopefully. And I can tell you that we are working on bringing people in, and you'll kind of get an experience for that. But we're going to get into that when we kind of go over shout-outs and upcoming news and people should pay attention to and other things. But in the interest of just keeping things on track, in the interest of making sure all of the kind of marks are met, so to speak, I wanted to make sure I get everything into order. And I also wanted to make sure that everything that I had planned is done. So let's start with the top. And let's address, since I know this is also going to be shown, which is interesting. See, this is not only going to be played on all over where the podcasts are, this is also played on YouTube and on the very channel that Icons of the F4L has taken place on. By the way, if you guys are interested in listening and watching those shows, by all means, you really should. So a lot of these people, a lot of these matches are based on real people. People who I believe in, people who I think have a lot of promise in all sorts of different walks of life. When you hear these names, you'll kind of get an idea. So without any further ado, what I'm going to do is first and foremost, let's just wrap up the month of June for Icons of the F4L. That, of course, is the YouTube wrestling show that my son and I started years ago, formerly known as Jazz and Sons Dream Matches, or Dream Masters now. Now it's called Icons of the F4L. Yes, my son still has a lot of say in it, and yes, my son still has limits on me. He still won't let me build people after midnight. That's still a rule. However, we still go over a lot of those things, and it's just a lot of the times these days I am left doing the commentary by myself, but we do split the duties on building and formatting the shows and so forth. So let's chat about June, first of all. I don't think I can say enough of how impressed a lot of people were by the Open MMA tournament we had at the beginning of this month. We kicked this month off with a heck of a tournament. The Open MMA tournament to decide the 2023 Icon of MMA. And what's impressive about this whole thing is the fact that, remember, on our show, we have no control over the outcomes. We build the people based upon the people they're based upon. So if they're, depending on who it is, we build them based upon how they look and, try to match them as close as possible. But at the end of the day, once we put, comes time for the show, once we, you guys saw a lot of the backstage stuff. You saw me draw out, pull the names out, who was going to face who and what round. I did that live on the show, on this show, on my podcast. And we never know who's going to face who in what round. And you don't know what's going to expect it. You only know, who's involved. And we had such a great lineup and such great talents this year that was impressive. We had new people and returning people who all put on clinics in what MMA is. And in July, we're going to have the first ever Dream Warriors Open MMA tournament, which is the females version. And that's going to be iconic and epic. But I think, first of all, to all of those who took part in our Open MMA tournament, this is what I say to you as the audience reflects upon it. well-deserved applause to everyone who took part in the Open MMA tournament. Some people, now for the record, we do have a healthy MMA roster in general. It shares with the BA lineup as well. So you got your Jackson R. Scotts of the world, but then you also have the Menya boys and the Adele boys and Grayson Russell and all those fine individuals who we'll get into shout-outs a little later because I really want to get through the lineup and just get through the month. And the tournament was fantastic. Everyone put on a clinic. No one walked away and should have their heads down because everyone did an amazing job. Newcomers, oldcomers, Big E Elijah Furton, who did an amazing job in his first tournament. Grayson Russell, who's been on the show for almost a year. It'll be a year in September. This is his first year doing the tournament. He did really well. The Adeles, of course, and the Menya boys, Henry and Jairo Menya, the Menya boys, and Anthony, Mason, Ty, and Troy. 4 Adeles this year, not 3 like last year. 4 Adeles, all advanced. That's 3 out of the 4 advanced. And last year's winner was Ty the Devil Adele. This year's winner had to face that person in order to qualify to get in. And they did. And they ended up winning. What does that say? It says that hard work and dedication is something. And the fact that this year's winner is none other than Jairo the Pitbull Menya. And, of course, it also was around the time of his birthday, too. So how special is that to not only win the Open MMA tournament, defeating many other people to get there, putting on a clinic everywhere. And, again, every single person who is in that final round did an amazing job. And in that final round, I don't think anyone who watches our show on a regular basis is surprised. The only surprises were the new names who we just added. Big E Elijah Furton. Noah the Nightmare Tyndall technically isn't new. He was on our show a while back, and he was part of our Open MMA tournament last year. But he did really well, as did everyone else who stepped up and put on a clinic in what MMA is. And I got to say, there were a lot of scary moments calling the action. The Adeles absolutely crushed a lot of their competition. Some key moments I'll never forget is Anthony Adele powerbombing Leonardo of the Ninja Turtles from the top of the top of the cage, to the table down below the floor. And that was the scariest thing I've ever seen. Thank you, Anthony Adele, for giving me a heart attack watching such a thing. But it goes to show you, but wait, it got better. Not only did he powerbomb Leonardo from the top of the cage, but then he decided it was a good idea to drop an elbow off the top of the cage into Leonardo down below, throwing caution to the wind, so to speak. An absolute beast was Anthony the Hunter Adele. Mason did extraordinarily well. Troy, in his first tournament with us this year, did exceptionally well. Everyone did really well in our tournament. That was how this month started, and then just progressed. It got better. So then it came time for the title matches to come up, and a lot of people didn't know, is Jojo the bodybuilder able to become a singles champion again? And can Philip Ricardo Jr. become a singles, success on his own? Because really, since the beginning, Jojo has been around longer, obviously, and Jojo is also our first Grand Slam champion on our show. So honestly, Jojo has won pretty much every title there is anyway. However, but Philip Ricardo Jr., can he survive on his own? And I think the honest answer, as we got to see, is that there's some things you can't change. Whether they're together or apart, they're beasts in their own right. There's a mutual respect that will always be there. And I'm sure they'll always watch each other's backs. But now JoJo is on the Monday Night roster on the Universal side of things, as he's your current Dream Masters Universal Champion after defeating the very talented Total Package Walker Campbell. JoJo the Bodybuilder not only got his title, but then retained it in the last show. So as you guys know, fortunately and unfortunately, that's one of the things that my son and I do. We don't like repetitive matches. So, the champion has one opportunity to get his title back, and if, the title doesn't change hands, then the next person will be next to the line, and that person goes to the bottom of the line, and they got to work their way back up. That's just how we do things. And again, we have no control over who wins and who loses. That's just how the show works. But the amazing thing is the fact that every single time that you put someone like a Walker Campbell in a ring with someone like JoJo the Bodybuilder, two extraordinary young men who have different goals and paths. Walker Campbell, very talented musician, athlete, actor, humanitarian, model, you name it, Walker Campbell does it. JoJo the Bodybuilder, a bodybuilding champion, a sports athlete, and a YouTube icon, and an icon of the F4L. So, two different career paths, but both well-respected and have work ethic. And probably have mutual respect, I'm going to guess, as well. But when they step in the ring against each other, every single match that they had was an instant classic. They exchanged the titles, they beat the titles, and JoJo the Bodybuilder sits at the top of the mountain again, as we're going to go over the results of yesterday's show, because yesterday's show is the last show of June, so theoretically every kind of conflict should have been resignated yesterday, and they were, for the most part. So let's go over yesterday's show, the 24th. In case you guys didn't miss it, if you're listening to this show, you know where to find any of the matches that I'm about to talk about. And feel free to check them out, because they're all amazing. And I got to say, the opening contest is a match I didn't expect I'd ever have to call. And it was also a match that as much as I didn't expect to call the match, I was also intrigued to see, one, could I pull this match off? How well would it be delivered? And I gotta say, it was quite entertaining. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but the opening contest, we had a debut. And for the Dream Warriors, that's the female roster again. So the way our shows work, we have two brackets. We have the Dream Masters, who are the males, and the Dream Warriors, who are female, the female roster. So the Dream Masters, you'll have those like the Brooks brothers, Jaden and Lincoln Brooks. In the female roster, you'll have women like the Squared Circle Cafe, and you'll have, the horror, the Talk Scary to Me, and all those people. Get it? Cool. So one of the interesting elements are that what happens when family and relatives kind of intertwine. So Scotty Brooks made her in-ring debut yesterday, needless to say. Scotty Brooks, is the younger sister of sorts of the Brooks Brothers Incorporated, who we'll talk about in a little bit when we get to the review of that match. Scotty Brooks is a dog. She's a lovely dog, very cute little puppy, and she made her debut against Grumpy Cat, another social media icon. And by the way, spoiler alert to any of those people out there who didn't know, Grumpy Cat is actually a female cat. Spoiler alert, hate to burst your bubbles, but Grumpy Cat is a female, which is why it was a fair match. But it was also the old-fashioned dog versus cat rivalry, which is kind of how the Dream Matches thing kind of started. In all honesty, it was kind of a throwback, which is why it was quite amusing to call. But again, if you ever thought you would ever see a dog and a cat wrestle in a wrestling show, only on Icons of the F4L could you see such a thing. And of course, Scotty Brooks must have got trained really well by her masters or brothers, or however you want to look at it. Of course, Jaden and Lincoln Brooks having a lot of part in that, as she picked up a win over Grumpy Cat. And then we had a double debut and a return in the next match, as for the Dream Masters, we had the debut of The Business, Big Bill, and Rabbi Steve, two new characters, not necessarily going to be a tag team, but they're both tagged in for the first time against the returning Blood Brothers. Everyone remembers them. Of course, they are, tied with the Awesome Ones. That's Sean Awesome, my son's group. But the Blood Brothers returned to action after a little bit of time away. Unfortunately, the newcomers picked up a big win. Some might call it an upset, but the Rabbi Steve and The Business, Big Bill, picking up the big win in their debut. The next contest for the Dream Warriors, Summer Pain. Don't let her sweetness fool you, folks. She's double tough, and she's also retained the championship as she defeated Baby Spice, who apparently just wanted a nap the whole time. Well, no worries, because Summer Pain made her go back to sleep and retained her championship. And then we come back to the Brooks Brothers, who challenged your New Zealand family. Yes, Sam and Denzel defended their Dream Masters Universal Tag Team Championship against the former champions, and the Brooks Brothers are now your new Dream Masters your new Dream Masters Universal Tag Team Champions for the fourth time. Yes, Jaden and Lincoln must have been inspired by Scotty Brooks, as it was a winning day for the Brooks family. Sam and Denzel have nothing to be ashamed of. They did it remarkably well. They defeated the champions last time, and let's face it, a win over someone like them is quite impressive. And I'm sure they're just getting started. The next match for the Dream Warriors, Malibu Hardy made her debut in defeating the Italian Stallion in Dream Warriors matches. And then it came down for the Dream Masters Universal Championship, as I just mentioned just moments ago, as one of the strongest people in the locker room, JoJo the Bodybuilder, challenging defending the championship against the Total Package, Walker Campbell, picking up the win. It is now your Dream Masters Universal Champion again. And then the Dream Warriors back in action as the Squared Circle Cafe had an open challenge. Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark answered the challenge, and unfortunately the champions refused to let go of the Dream Warriors Universal Tag Team titles. So they sent them back empty-handed, retaining the tag titles. And then one of the fans' new favorites, I should say, we mentioned him a little earlier, Big E, Elijah Furton, defeating Ranger Rick Blackstone. Ranger Rick outsized him. He was definitely bigger than Elijah, but Elijah had no problem cutting down Ranger Rick to size and then ultimately picking up the win. And then it came down time for the Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix Tag Team Championship. That's a long sentence right there. However, if you thought that was a long sentence, you should have saw the match. As Ty the Devil Odell and Mason the Hammer Odell teaming up to challenge, of course that would be the Odell boys, to challenge their long nemesis on the show, and two other brothers who are just as tough and just as feared, and Jairo and Henry Mena, the Mena boys. And of course we have new Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix Tag Team Champions, as the Adele boys got a win over the Mena boys. And this is like they've just been when they became the number one contenders again, the Adele boys. I knew we were going to be stuck back and forth between them and the Mena boys, as they are both two of the toughest, two families of great guts and intestinal fortitude. But in the end, you can only have one winner. And again, we have no control over it, as the Adele boys have just been on a playing field since the tournament, and they have picked up the win. However, we know it won't be the last time that these brothers will meet, that's for sure. And we can't wait to see what happens when it does again. And then, of course, we have one of the most talked about Dream Warriors. Again, that's our female roster. as she is the only person in the history of either the Dream Masters or the Dream Warriors roster to be 3 years undefeated. And guess what? Surprise, surprise, yet again, the Duchess, Miss Lana King, retaining the Dream Warriors Telenet Championship against an open challenging Kaden Carter, whoever she is. Well, the Duchess didn't know who she was either because she made quick work of her. And she even tried getting her tag team partner to help her, which the Duchess could care less and sent them both packing empty-handed. The Duchess remains undefeated. 3 years in the making. And then we had a little bit of an interesting thing here. So the Three Stooges, yes, you heard that right. Those people who watched the show last show know that my son, Sean Awesome, got into a fight with Mo of the Three Stooges. Only on this show could you ever hear such a sentence. But Mo apparently went to flick my son's nose. My son did not like such a thing, and this ended up in a fight out back, which led to this match. Unfortunately, that one of the tag team partners that would normally team with the Awesome Ones, Giannis Antetokounmpo, was unable to join them due to the main event. So the only person he could get to team with him is his longtime companion and friend and member of the Awesome Ones, Stan the Man Lee. However, there's an old saying, sometimes the numbers game is just too much. And the Three Stooges, it was a 3-on-2 handicap match, as the Three Stooges, yes, Mo, Larry, and Curly, defeated Sean Awesome and Stan the Man Lee, the Awesome Ones, in tag team action. I'm certain my son's not going to let that one rest, and I'm certain next time it'll be an even 3-on-3. Anywho, the next contest was it was a Cage of Doom, 6-6. It was a first of its kind. So, as I mentioned at the top, we have some of the best MMA competitors in the world on our roster already. And the fact of the matter is, we had so many people who were destined to become a champion. And the champion, Leo, the Bull Curtis, at that point, he put out an open challenge. He said, bring them all. And that is the heart of a champion right there. And we brought them all. 6 competitors, 1 ring in a cage under MMA rules. As, well, just because you put out an open challenge doesn't necessarily mean, confidence is respected. But sometimes you got to be careful who's going to knock on that door. Because 5 people knocked on the door. The people who knocked on the door to answer the challenge are names that should send shivers down the spine of anyone who wants to take a match against them, including the prodigy Jackson R. Scott, the hunter Anthony Adele, the punk rocker jumping over to Friday nights, Elliot Fulham, Grayson the Super Duck Russell, and of course, the winner and new Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix champion for the second time, because he only lost it once, the Nightmare Noah Tyndall. That's right, number 1, Noah the Nightmare Tyndall, yet again, your Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix champion for the second time, because he only lost it recently. But we know there's going to be a rematch, 1-on-1, and we'll see what happens on July 4th. Interesting indeed. Anywho, congratulations to the champion, but everyone putting on a clinic in that match, just got to say, was fantastic. And the next match, which was scheduled for one fall, was we spoke about the Super Duck, Grayson Russell. We can't leave out his mother, who is also on the Dream Warriors side of things, the current Dream Warriors BA MMA champion. That is basically the female version of the same champion for the males. She defended against Pamela Anderson, who decided that maybe dressing up as the barbed wire character was going to be enough to challenge the Angela Russell, as we call her, the Mama Bear Angela Russell, to an MMA match for the Dream Warriors BA MMA title. Spoiler alert. Actually, you should go back and watch it, but so you know, Angela Russell retains her Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix Championship. And the main event, we had 30. This is a special thing. See, June is Father's Day, and much like last month we had Mother's Day, we had a similar thing where we had a Mother's Day Melee, which is a battle royal for those people who don't know. So, because we are fair, and since the women had their day last month, this month we had we had a Father's Day, a belated Father's Day Melee yesterday. 30 dads in one ring. A lot of jokes being said all over the place, and there's a lot of nightmares happening right after that. But in the end, you know what happens is it can only be one, even though there's 30 different people who want to be the 2023 winner of the Father's Day Melee. There can only be one, and this year's winner goes to prove that you can be successful just as much as your winner in the 2023 Father's Day Melee is the natural Philip Ricardo Jr., going to show that he is just as successful in the singles division as he can be in the tag team division, as he beat 29 other dads to become the father of the year, I guess you'd say. So congratulations to them. Great show. Wonderful. And again, you can find this on the YouTube show if you're listening to this on YouTube on this channel. If you're not listening to this on this channel, and you're listening to this all the other places, Spotify and Apple Music and all the other fun places we are, then you can find us on Icons of the F4L on YouTube and watch all these fun matches, and you can listen to this podcast. Again, peace. That was an amazing show, and that ends our review of Part 1. So, let's get ready for everyone's favorite time. Let's get ready to head over to, well, we all know where we're heading. We're going to do the shout-outs. Take it away, boys. All right. Thank you, guys. You know, in the history of talk shows, everyone has their co-hosts. Everyone has their little bands. You know, Jay Leno had Kevin Eubanks. Johnny Carson had Ed McMahon. Heck, even Vince McMahon had Bobby Heenan. Gorilla Monsoon had Bobby Heenan too, for that matter. Regis had Kathy Lee Gifford. So it only is fair that I have a band of marching ants to accompany me on this show, because why not have ants as a band? Yes, indeed. Ants on a podcast. So, hopefully you guys are hearing me, not the noisy neighbors around. Anywho, folks, we're getting ready to do our shout-out portion of our show, which I'm excited about, as I'm about to drop names of several people, some honorable mentions as well. But first and foremost, I guess let's first, get the birthday guys out of the way first. So a happy birthday to Gus Jeffers, Ivan the Dolphin Shark, and Leo the Bull Curtis. This one, for you and any other icons who had celebrated a birthday, this one's for you. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So, happy birthday to those fine gentlemen. And we're going to get to them individually in a moment anyway. So, first and foremost, I gotta give a shout out to a old friend of mine who I watched grow up over the years from, my days at Monster Mania. Very talented young man, and someone who I say, this young guy could do something big. I've known his dad and mom, I've seen them also, knew them all from Monster Mania. It's really a family atmosphere over at Monster Mania Con. It's really not so much about the horror movies or the other thing. It's really about the feeling of how everyone is there. It's like a place where everyone can be kind of relaxed and be themselves. Well, last night I got to see someone relive their dream or live out their dream as Elliot took the stage not far from where I actually lived in my hometown. Elliot went ahead and did a show and did his music, and what a great show he did. I got to hang out with him and his dad, his mom, his lovely girlfriend, Josie. Very fine young lady. His mom and dad, I love them tremendously. His dad and mom I talk to on a regular basis. Very wise people, very awesome people. We got to, it's an interesting thing. I'm not going to go into great detail about it because I don't think it's right to. But they told me the story of something that they had, overcame. And I, on this show, have talked about something I overcame as well. And it's a mutual respect. It goes to show you who we kind of are. I guess sometimes in life, people are just kind of meant to be into the same realm with each other. So, shout out to the little punk people. That's the great, dad over there and his wife. Another fantastic human being. And Elliot Fulham, who did a great job, great set. My daughter thinks that Elliot sounds like Kurt Cobain from MTV Unplugged, which Elliot got a kick out of. And I think he sounds like a cross between that and maybe Roger Waters. Very talented young man, writes his own music, plays his own music, is passionate about music, also passionate about movies, and he's also very humble, much like his family is. And I think what's important is you never lose sight of who you are when you get to be you. When you reach that goal, it's important to realize, you don't change who you are just because you might have, succeeded in one goal, because one goal is going to end up going to another eventually. But I got to chat with you guys about something that was interesting. This is also another shout out, and that is to the Escrow Bar in Providence, Escrow restaurant club thingy. Anyone who knows me knows I don't drink or drug. I don't smoke. Probably one of the most boring people you'll ever talk to as far as that goes. My idea of hardcore drinking on occasion is a soda pop, which, yes, folks, I did have a Coke with no ice. But you know what? I went into this place and I even laughed with the bartender, a very nice guy. And I said, listen, you're going to laugh at me, but I don't drink. I'm here to support my friends here. And the bartender was very nice, very respectful, didn't give me a hard time about the fact that I don't drink. In fact, I switched from one soda to water, and they still didn't give me a hard time because I enjoy water over all of that. You know what? It's a very rare thing that I give shout-outs to, like an establishment kind of a thing, but the Esco little bar, it's a club kind of a thing. Whenever I watch shows like Cheers or things like that, I have a hard time picturing me going to a place like that because, one, I don't drink, and two, I get bored easy. I can't just go into a bar and do nothing, and I'm not saying that all bars are like this or clubs are like this or whatever, but, all honesty, I went in there and they had a pool table, and they had a giant Connect 4, which I didn't get to take part in. They had they had a video game system. They had the old school Nintendo set up to it. So you know what? The Esco Providence Club there, it wasn't a bad place. I have to say I was impressed. And it wasn't what I expected a bar to be. I haven't been in a bar in a long time either. So, but I also, the staff, any of the workers there were all fantastic, spot on. The doorman and the bartender, as I said, I got to deal with another waitress. She was pleasant people. Very nice. It was a small place. It was good enough to do a music thing. Apparently, they have like an open mic thing and all these other things. All honesty, the fact that I found a pool table, which is something I've been looking for a little while, is kind of exciting, and that it is free to to play as long as you are, drinking something. I thought that was an awesome, bit. So, I'm not one who really goes out to a bar or a club just to hang out, but you know what? If the right band or something like that was playing there, I would probably go back there again and take part. Or you know what? Maybe one of these nights, my lovely wife, one of these days, will go down there and have a great time. Just because I choose not to drink it and whatnot doesn't mean my wife chooses to. For the record, and she's not like that either, folks. But still, but anywho, it was a great little place. It was, pretty decent for what it is. I think I could see some karaoke going on over there. They have an open mic. Never put an open mic in me in front of something because I'll usually take over the microphone. It's never fun for everybody else. But yeah, it's a lot of good time. But, that brings me into the next shout out that I have to give out to. And of course, that goes to the people really who kind of, brought, Elliot and his family and me into the same place, and that's Monster Mania. Little Punk People, which is the dad of Elliot, was saying, well, you come all the way down from up here to go to Monster Mania, which is in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, folks. I'm up in the Northeast, Massachusetts, Rhode Island area, and it's about a 5-hour drive to get down there, and they come from Jersey, so it's not too long for them, but they were a little surprised that I would go so far. But, what's interesting about the atmosphere that Dave does is he makes it like a family. It's like an unofficial family reunion whenever you go. And every time you go, all of the other brothers and sisters in the Monster Mania family, it's all, hugs and high fives and how you doing. And, I don't have any bad experiences hanging out with anybody from Monster Mania. They're all extended family. My kids grew up going to Monster Mania, much like Elliot grew up in Monster Mania when his parents were vendors there. And now look how great Elliot's doing. That's why I'm so proud of him fulfilling his goal and dream, which is something I am all for, which is why I do the show to begin with, and why I was so proud to go to a show to support him doing that. Which it's rare that I just go out and do something rather than just work. But it was a good time, and all honesty, it's all because of the atmosphere that Dave Hagen and the Monster Mania crew does, providing such a place where you can just hang out with fellow people who like the same kinds of things. And I look forward to seeing everyone again in August. As you guys know, I'm part of the crew, so I'll see you all there at Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, New Jersey in August. More on that later. So our next shout out is someone who I already just got done talking about. Actually, I kicked it off in the beginning. Remember this part? Hold on, let's take you back there. So Gus Jeffers, who is a young man who I've talked about on the show before, he's a musician. He just released his first EP on Spotify and probably anywhere else music is. And, what a great birthday gift it is to celebrate your birthday by releasing something you're proud of. One of the things I've been gifted with is the ability to know talent from a mile away. Gus just celebrated a birthday, and he released a first EP on Spotify. And we are proud of Gus, and we hope to have him on the show soon to celebrate him even more, even though we've talked about him before. I can tell you that we're in the works of bringing Gus here. It's just going to be, who knows when, but we are working on bringing Gus here and to introduce to you guys in person so you can see that he is a real person that we celebrate. And he is a fantastic, talented individual. And that brings us to another person we're going to shout out real quick. He's someone, you've heard of Gus before, you've heard of Elliot before, you've heard of Monster Mania before. This young man we've talked about briefly, but we're going to talk about him again because I have, what's funny is we live in a small world of talented people It's a small circle, but what's amazing is sometimes it's not about what you know, it's who you know. And a good friend of the show, the talented, as we mentioned him earlier, Walker Campbell, I got wind of him working with a group of talented young people, and Gabriel Sejes, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Gabriel Sejes, who is another up-and-coming musician, a talented young man, about the same age as Walker, I believe. Very talented musician out of Guatemala, and he sings a lot of Latino music, but also a lot of pop, a lot of Americana. I actually listened to several of his musics. A very talented young man, very gifted, very polite, respectful. And the more incredible thing is that he is looking forward to, much like his friend Walker Campbell, he's looking forward to also coming on this show. And we welcome Gabriel to come on here. And unlike Walker, he's going to get to do one thing Walker didn't get to do yet, and that is he's going to get to take part in the whole video aspect of it as well. So it's going to be kind of exciting having him on here. Again, like I said, he's got a lot of great hits already, does some covers, does some of his own stuff. My wife actually listened to a few things by Gabriel and said that his music takes her back to when she was growing up. My wife, for those people who don't know, is part Hispanic, part Guatemalan. And she loved his music as well. She thought it brought her back to those days. And he also sings a lot of things like Stand By Me and Hallelujah, which I'm a big fan of those types of songs. And those are not easy songs to sing either, and he does them effortlessly. Much like Gus, very talented. And again, I can tell you that we're working on bringing him in here sooner than later. Gus I'm not sure about, but I know Gabriel I did talk to just today, in fact, and working on bringing him in here for the first time. And, one of the things about this show is you come on here once and it becomes part of your, it just comes like your second home, and that's ultimately what we hope for. Got to shout out, I already shouted out Leo the Bull Curtis and Ivan the Dolphin Shark for their birthday. Happy birthday to them, members of our icons of the F4L roster. Ivan the Dolphin Shark, one of the best swimmers in the world. Leo the Bull Curtis, one of the pure athletes in the world out of the UK. Proud of them as well. Also going to shout out Lucas Royalty for his amazing heart and his amazing ability to care for others and run several different charities. Instagram being a lot of fun, as they have been messing with Lucas, who knows why. With all of the creeps in the world and the hatred in the world and all the bullying out there, Lucas, who tries to do nice things, they give him a hard time. I don't understand how they work with those things, but it just makes no sense to me. But that's over my pay rate. But Lucas Royalty, fantastic human being. We have him on our icons of the F4L roster. And you can always check him out on wherever you can find him. You can find him on Instagram. Just, know that they like to mess with him a lot. He's also on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else. Lucas Royalty. He is a real person, and it is his real last name. It's not a gimmick. Very talented actor, model, extraordinaire. So go check him out. Really cool kid. The next person is someone who, YouTube is an amazing thing because when I think back when I started out on YouTube, wasn't as many people way back in the day. And there were people who were just getting their footing. What was amazing about YouTube is how we connected and how I was able to see talent from a mile away. This is kind of another ability to see far away from talent. And one of the things that people might know about me is my filmmaking background and the ability to be able to cast and look for talent outside of the things. Here's a spoiler alert for me. Let me just make this broad statement here. This will actually explain why this person is going to get a shout out too, and why I think he's so amazing. What I look for when I cast someone in a role, it's not sometimes, and this is honest truth, 9 out of 10 times it's a project that I've written. to be, for the person to be casted in. So if it's something that I have written and I have someone who's going to audition for something that I have written, if they have something different than everyone else, if they have that little something extra, one of my gifts is being able to see some things that not everyone can. One of the things that I am able to see and spot is charisma, which is invisible. You can't just see charisma. And this individual has a natural charisma that is profound. It is a the ability to be able to hold a presence of a camera, to find out what this person is going to do, to see someone who has such fun in front of a camera, to see someone who a camera is friendly to. When we talk about Finn S. Allen on YouTube, the young actor extraordinaire, we got to chat about him. I just said his name, didn't I? And of course, this young man is another person who I have, kept an eye on and watched him grow in the acting thing. And I finally got to see one of his short films that we're going to review in our film review. But let me tell you what is amazing about Finn. He has a creativity and a natural charisma that I have not seen in a long time. He, first and foremost, he's very comfortable in front of a camera, which is an important thing if you're going to be an actor. But what's interesting is, unfortunately, I don't know if I can do jump over the film review in order to reference this, but in the film that I'm going to review, he didn't have a lot of dialogue early on, but his ability to be able to tell a story without actually having to say something is remarkable. To be able to hold a short film together without having to say a lot of words, to keep your audience engaged, is very impressive. Let me tell you, and a warning to everyone, when you go to Finn Allen's page on YouTube, be careful and set aside some time because you're probably going to fall down the rabbit hole like I did. He has a smorgasbord of all kinds of amazing videos. Reaction things, which I gotta say, I gotta find out how those things work. I'm thinking, I see a lot of people do these reaction videos or how to, try not to laugh challenges, try not to cry challenges. I might have to try one of these because this kid made it look like it's easy, sort of. But also, he does these little side projects while he's doing his own thing. He has a little 3-part spy versus spy type of thing, which I feel is a throwback to the old Mad TV thing, which is probably not what they're going for. And again, from the filmmaker's perspective, I look deeper past the overall meaning. And I'm sure they were not, this 3-part miniseries is himself, and him. There's an old proverb of me, myself, and I. There was a Jim Carrey movie called Me, Myself, and Irene, which actually sort of examines this premise. So the old Jekyll and Hyde kind of a routine where you have 2 parts of a person. So this is, first and foremost, this is all comical stuff. Natural funny, natural comedy. I have told him on numerous times that he deserves his own reality show because, honestly, he keeps the camera engaged with him, and you just want to see what's going to happen next. If the cat's going to jump up on the table, it's amazing to see. The lighting is dramatic in fashion. His way to his mannerisms is amusing. Very, very stage present, and almost like he's non-stop on every single time. Which is why I had to ask him, is it hard for you? In the film that he had to do, he had to have half the movie where he didn't have any dialogue to then go ahead and have some of this amazing dialogue at the end and do kind of what he does on the show. To be honest with you, he strikes me as a very big talker, and I don't know... I would, and this was his first role, apparently, his first, lead role. you can obviously have other parts in something, like, a background person or stage. I've done a lot of that myself. But to have, to be a lead in something and not to be able to speak, so to speak, for so long during the movie, when being someone who naturally is a talker, it must have been a little bit of a different. But what I liked is the fact that he said how, because I asked him prior to coming on the show, I asked him about, is it hard for you to kind of transition into that from being someone who talks like that to being quiet and then being able to do that? Or was it easier where you had less dialogue to remember? He said it was a challenge to be able to lead role and have be quiet, but also being able to do that. But the setting made it safer and happier, being its first role. That's important because as a filmmaker, a lot of people have this conception of what a film set is. And a lot of people have different film styles. My style is different than other people's, but other people who have either went to the same film school as me, or has heard different things that I've done, or worked with different other aspects. A lot of people might not know that I helped a lot of casting a lot of the films locally, and I've also had a lot of parts in recommending talents to people who might not know them at first. I do a lot of that. Some of my close friends, might have made on movies called It, or things, another friend of mine might have made a show about a bunch of cobras doing Kai kind of stuff. But in general, one of the things that, like the guys, my friends over there who made that movie about the clown, one of the things that they, agreed with, one of the things that I also agree with, is letting the people who are in the cast be themselves elegantly, and letting them have that freedom to be themselves off set, when on set, I guess you should say. Having like a laid back, friendly like atmosphere. Because one thing it does is it adds to an easier shoot, because no one is stressed out, anxious about messing up, because you're so relaxed with each other. It's like messing up with one of your friends. That's the idea. But also, just a family atmosphere. Everyone's watching each other's backs, and it makes it a solid unit. It's not my project, it's our project. That's how I look at things. That's not how everyone else might look at the same thing. My style is different than everyone else's. George Lucas has his own style. Rob Reiner has his style. In the old days, the old filmmakers, Martin Scorsese or Stanley Kubrick, probably one of the biggest examples. He could be a tyrant to some of his cast to get them into character, to get them the way they needed to be. I don't believe in those things. I won't scream and yell at someone. That's not what I'm about. I like to have a laid back and natural atmosphere. I'm not saying I'm better than Stanley Kubrick by any means. I mean, he did The Shining, and people still talking about that to this day. And my things, are my own. Granted, I'm very proud of all the things that I've been part of, but they're definitely not The Shining as of yet. But give it time. Maybe soon enough, and I'll show that you can create more with honey than you do with vinegar, so to speak. But anyway, Finn Allen, folks, go check him out on YouTube. Very talented young man. Again, I'm going to try to get him on this show, too. We'll see how that works out. I bet that would be interesting to have. I wonder if he can talk as much as I can. I also think it could be a very amusing show. Again, he's got the comical chops down. I don't think that he just has a natural comedian heart. In the showman heart, he seems to be on all the time. So, good for him. And we look forward to seeing maybe if we can get him on here as well, eventually. And here comes another person who we mentioned briefly earlier, and we're going to talk about him again, and I even warned him ahead of time that his ears might ring. Of course, that being another YouTube guy in JoJo the Bodybuilder. Now, here's a little thing about JoJo the Bodybuilder and the whole, the thing in general. Way back in the day when I first, had to work from home, I discovered JoJo, was, trying to inspire people to, he actually started doing his own bodybuilding show during the middle of everything else, woe is me during the 2020s, which everyone wants to forget. I don't. All honesty, a lot of people complain and whine and cry about 2020. I honestly am grateful for it because it allowed me to meet so many amazing people I normally probably wouldn't have. I was a workaholic. I was someone who worked a lot. I didn't have a lot of time to check out videos like I used to. And working from home, having to take and do writing in between things, and then learning the people like the Walker Campbells, the Jaden Brooks, the JoJo the Bodybuilders, the Amenya Boys, the Adele Boys, and watching them work on their own crafts in their own genres. Today, JoJo the Bodybuilder lives up to his name. He actually does what is in his name. And there has been a trend, again, this is something that has been going on and on. What's interesting about YouTube, just another, I guess I should really wait for my dialogue about YouTube till after and the growing, the usual things. But here's what I'm going to say, just to sum all this part of it up. When it comes to JoJo the Bodybuilder, here's what I can tell you. Kind of like how my son and I are the originals of the genre we do on this show for Icons of the F4L and the Dream Masters thing. We're the originals of that according to YouTube. We started that. We're known for that. Regardless how many people did it after us, we're still the originals. Well, here's what I can say. JoJo the Bodybuilder is the person who I believe is the one who started that trend and has done it well and the best because unlike all these other supposed bodybuilders, JoJo has actually lived up to it and has actually performed on a stage in a bodybuilding contest. Not just took pictures in front of a mirror and said, oh, look at me, I'm a bodybuilder. That's what I can say about JoJo the Bodybuilder. He backs up his word. He's honest. He's truthful. He's been on this show. He's done big things since the show. We're always proud of him. And he's always getting bigger and stronger. And he's returned to YouTube with a vengeance, no pun intended. And I got to tell you, his brother Noah is just as entertaining as he is. In fact, brother Noah, a very talented musician. And all honesty, I love watching the interactions of them alone. And yes, if you're wondering, do I support these people? Do I follow all these people? The Gabriels, the Gusses, the Elliot Fulliams, the Little Punk people, Finn S. Allen, Gabriel, and all these people. Do the Adele Boys, the Amenya Boys. Do I follow any of these people? Of course I do. I'm a man of my word. I follow and I support and I subscribe because I believe in them. I think they are all talented in their own right, in their own genre. What's amazing about the world is we're all given gifts and talents. What's important is knowing how to use them. I was gifted with the ability to see talent and also been gifted with a voice. And also being able to be honest and not be able to be influenced by others. Being able to stand for what's right versus what's wrong. Being able to sometimes having to take up the hard part of things than the easy ways. We'll get into that later, though. Another person I'm going to shout out, and also as a PSA, because I feel bad for this guy. Either people don't know yet, or they should have. A member of the OK Thank You group, Mike of OK Thank You, has returned to List 25. And by the way, those people wondered, List 25 on YouTube is back. And out of all of these countdown shows, other than Minty, who does movies, Minty is still in my opinion, one of the best, movie facts people out there, even though it's usually 10. Minty is the best in that genre. But when it comes to lists, List 25 and Mike specifically, formerly of OK formerly of List 25, then of OK Thank You, now back on List 25. Mike is one of the most genuine human beings on the planet. I love Mike to pieces. I like Tristan. I love all those guys of OK Thank You. You guys know that. We've had him on this show. Fellow YouTubers unite. One of the roles I took up a long time ago is I became the unofficial welcoming committee to YouTube because I feel like sometimes people feel like there's competition in YouTube. Like, oh, I need to get my views over someone else. I don't view things that way. I believe in helping others to help, get them over and help them grow. When I started out on YouTube, I can tell you that it was a very, interesting, diverse community back then. But I still am friends with some of those early YouTube people. Some of them left YouTube. Some of them aren't out there as often as they are. Some still are. Some have changed direction. One of the early F4L people out there, and one of the early YouTubers along with me, one of the early musicians, Jaden Brooks is another story. Jaden Brooks is an amazing person. Anyway, he's been on this show a few times. But I'm talking about early stages of YouTube. When I first started, again, I didn't even know what YouTube was. The wrestling promoters who were, booking Jazz Fitness are the ones who put the Jazz Fitness videos up. That's how I got introduced to YouTube. But that was also at the birth of YouTube. Really, that was the early stages. And I guess now, a lot of the Jazz Fitness videos, a lot of people can probably kind of do with TikTok, I suppose, now, or something like that. The only difference is I actually competed in the wrestling world for a long time and entertained people in front of an audience. People actually paid money to see me do that live versus watch me do it on TikTok for 30 seconds and not get paid anything for it. But anyway, YouTube was a different thing back then. When I learned how to do the YouTube stuff, I ended up doing it myself, doing the Jazz Fitness promos and some of those Jazz Fitness early promos where I, gave, well, not me, Jazz Fitness gave his 2 cents on various topics. Still talked about, still. Not a lot of them are out there as far as the old school promos because of the fallout with me and my former co-filmmaker or whatever. But whatever. But I honestly don't have any regrets about Jazz Fitness as much as people might want to think I do. Jazz Fitness is still a YouTube sensation. What I usually like to say is sometimes it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And Jazz Fitness early days was you couldn't go anywhere without seeing the Eye of the Tiger video or the Jazz Fitness workout video or the How to Make Coffee, Jazz Fitness Goes to the Fair, Jazz Fitness workout, Jazz Fitness plays basketball with the hoods. All those early Jazz Fitness videos that became cultural in the early days of YouTube. You got to remember, there are other people on YouTube who are starting around the same time. Some have gone on to bigger and better things. Some of them just left altogether. Some of them I'm friends with, and some of them I'm not. Some of them I'm very friendly with, and one of them particularly are the reason to why the Dream Masters started, ultimately. And one of the first people to really embrace the F4L out of all the way from Australia was a young musician named Jordan Jensen. We don't talk a lot about Jordan Jensen on the show enough, honestly. But Jordan Jensen was really someone who I really respected in the music business. He was a young man, much like these current people who are singing, like the Gabriels, the Walkers, the Gus's of the world. They really are the current generation of what Jordan Jensen started. Jordan and Troye Sivan, another one of my old buddies from the early days. And, of course, there was another person out of Canada that you guys might have heard of, Justin Bieber, who started out around that same time. Now, there are different aspects to who I interacted with, how I interact with, and how well I got along with them. Justin Bieber, all fairness, I got to say, no, I didn't interact with him a great deal. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I honestly thought that when it came to talent-wise, this is my honest truth, and I said it, and this is one of the reasons why I am respected by others, because I'm honest. When it came to music, Jordan Jensen, Troye Sivan, and a couple other, Declan Galbraith, these are early guys of YouTube. Go check them out if you haven't. They could do what Justin was doing, but they didn't need auto-tune. And also the other part about it is they stayed humble. They stayed themselves. They didn't change who they were. Troye Sivan, a lot of people might have forgotten about him, but he's still touring. He's still doing music. He's also doing acting, too. But Troye Sivan is a very talented individual. I don't think he gets enough credit for early days of YouTube, as he really... A lot of people make a big deal about Justin Bieber becoming this big big craze, and he's the one we all respect. I'm going to tell you, though, if you're going to really respect someone, as much as you want to respect Justin Bieber because he became this big thing, I really want you guys to check out Troye Sivan because he was really different in that aspect. Because unlike Justin Bieber, Troye Sivan, he really set some standards that Justin didn't. See, a lot of people remember Justin Bieber from the early singing days, right, on YouTube. And then he went on to become, what he is today as a pop culture thing from, the area. I don't know if the lessons that Justin Bieber does now today is something that everyone's so proud of. I don't know if he's even proud of the things that he's done. In fact, I'm pretty certain he said he's not proud of a lot of the things that he's done socially since becoming. And he's also gone on record by saying he wasn't ready. He was too young. He might even have some regrets about it. People need to listen to those interviews by Justin Bieber, who people respect so much. And that's okay. A lot of people think that I actually have heat with Justin Bieber, but that's the character form. That's the early days of the wrestling things. One of the early YouTube videos with Jazz Fitness. One of the biggest, one of the videos that got the most hits, if you would. The one that became the, quote, sensation was the one where I called out Justin Bieber to a match in wrestling. Early days of both Justin and myself as Jazz Fitness and Justin as his music thing at the height of Bieber mania. But since then, of course, Bieber's had his own issues with all kinds of things since then. But Troye Sivan, a lot of people might not even heard of that name, which is awful because he's the same time, he started out the same era as Justin Bieber. He came from, originally is out of Australia, but he also lived in South America. He lives here in the United States now, I believe. Very talented young man. He also is the one who really started the trend with vlogging, if you would. A lot of these video vlogging people out there. Troye Sivan, really started that trend, where he would, take the, he would sing. Obviously, he did the covers like Bieber or Jordan Jensen would do, and all those guys. But what made him different was that Troye Sivan would also. He would do his little side dialogue. He'll sit, this is what I had for breakfast today. This is the day of my life. This is, answering my questions to the fans. Troye Sivan started that before a lot of these other people are doing it now. But Troye Sivan started that thing. Justin Bieber did not do vlogging and all these other things. He did the singing, and he did, cameos with other people singing. He didn't do vlogging on YouTube. Go back and watch. He did singing or variations of him singing and whatnot. He didn't do just videos. He didn't do the things that Troye Sivan did. And Troye Sivan is still playing music. Troye Sivan also, showing guts and intestinal fortitude. He also came out, which, it takes a lot of guts for a person his age to do that. And I think he's well respected for doing so. And we don't judge on this show, which is why I respect for everyone. It's in the F4L model: love, caring, compassion, understand, respect each other for the differences. I respect everyone for the differences. And Troye Sivan, Jordan Jensen, I've chat with them several times early days and over the years. And honestly, Jordan Jensen, who watched our show by Sun's Eyes early YouTube shows when we did dream matches, loved the show so much. He was really developmental and helpful in development of the show to where it is now. So thank you to him, by the way. But he doesn't do YouTube as much. Go on, check. He doesn't go on here anymore. Why? Well, because honestly, a lot of reasons. Mainly, one of the reasons being is the demand that people were. He just wanted to live a life. Fans would be absolutely reprehensible. Much like people today are getting hate and people who talk about them, the trolls of the world, they were even worse to him back then. And then they were demanding of everything. They wanted every little thing. And then, of course, Jordan Jensen, I can't really count him out of the whole vlogging thing, because he also did a great job with early days of early YouTube, of early social media, and interacting, and all those kinds of things. And again, he embraced the whole F4L lifestyle, which is a huge thing. I actually still have a thing here somewhere where he sent us some things. We, sent letters back and forth, old school things, folks. Cool stuff. But anyway, Jordan Jensen, Troy Sivan, early days of YouTube, along with myself. A lot of these current YouTubers, do the similar things, and they do a great job at it. Guys like Gus and Gabe and Walker, all these amazing talented people we have now. One of the things, if I was going to be honest with every one of them, is to say, always be yourself, no matter what your goal is in the end game. And they're all talented in their own right. They can all sing without auto-tune. They don't need any of the gimmicks. And all honesty, they're all decent human beings. And I believe in every single one of those people will succeed in their goals. Just like everyone else who I support on the show. Just everyone who I've just shouted out. Every one of them I believe in. Otherwise, I wouldn't shout them out, obviously. So, I can't say enough about the amazing people out there. And YouTube is such a great source of, really getting a lot of that. And a lot of them are only part of I'm actually telling Finn that I just got done talking about him. So you're not late, Finn. I'm letting him know I'm still in the air, too. And so I just wrote you back there, Finn. Let you know that it's okay. Finn apparently was out with his mom and dad, which is awesome. By the way, it's always good to spend time with your parents. By the way, I wanted to say a quick shout out to my wife and my kids last week for Father's Day. They took me out, lovely that they are. And as far as that goes, people often wonder, how do my kids feel about the podcast and the YouTube show? Well, first of all, my son does the YouTube show with me, so obviously we know how he feels about that. A lot of it is tongue-in-cheek sometimes with him because he, again, is he looks at the things at a different lens than I do. He looks at the younger person's perspective. My daughter really loves the podcast. She thinks they have a lot of wisdom to share. So much so that she got me the microphone I'm using right now. My daughter got me the microphone I'm using right now for my birthday a few years ago. I say a few years ago because we've been doing this show for 3 years now, believe it or not. And I've had this microphone that I've been using for the last 2 years, so since she gave it to me. The headset I'm using for my headphones, my wife got me for Father's Day this year. So shout out to both my wife and my daughter for supporting the podcast and believing in the message that I'm giving everyone else, that just believe in yourselves, continue doing the amazing things you guys are all doing, and you will all succeed. Finn shouldn't feel too bad considering I still have to review his film, which I haven't done yet. We're going to get to that. I did shout out Mike of List 25. By the way, again, people, go to List 25, resubscribe. They are back. As far as lists go, they are the best of the best. As far as just random facts, they are the best. And Mike really is the star of the show, honestly. I don't think the channel would be the same without Mike. So shout out to him. And again, I can tell you that we were also planning on bringing Mike back to the show, too. It's been a little while. So much so that, he's jumped channels. So we're going to have to chat with him about that. And also, maybe live on the air, we're going to chat with him about how him being someone who knows how to play the Dungeons & Dragons thing, We're going to ask him how the thing I have in mind would work. He would know. We'll have to chat with him about that. But also want to shout out the Adele boys, of course, because I have to. Of course, why do I have to shout out the Adele boys? Has anyone watched the shows on YouTube? Our icons of the F4L? Between them and the other people who we're going to shout out after them, the Menu boys, the four, this four in the Adeles, who I believe they are the measuring stick for sports, let alone MMA. The Adeles excel in just about any sport that they're in. They're champions in each sport that they're in. They have titles in everything. Everything from MMA, wrestling, baseball, football, motocross, fishing, you name it, they do it. That is a super athlete very much so. The Menu boys, what makes them amazing, and not only are they just as tough as the Adeles as far as MMA and boxing and fighting goes, but the Menu boys also have been on the show, by the way, but also the Menu boys also have heart, gut, and determination also. I'm not saying that the Adeles don't, but the Menu boys have a family drive, and they have they seem to fight for different things, which is a different kind of an atmosphere. And it's also two of them. They are brothers that have each other's backs, and they are brothers through and through. The Adele boys have 4 of Adele boys, and the Menu boys have 2. But all of those young men are tremendous athletes in their own right. I honestly can see any one of them headlining the UFC card someday. In all honesty, we've put them against the UFC guys, and they've beaten every single one of them. How do I know that? Did you watch our Open MMA tournament? Look at the list of the people that they defeated. Goes to give you a warm-up. So watch out, Conor McGregor. Henry Menya made you tap out like a girl, so you know. Yes, that happened. Henry Alniro Menya of the Menu boys made Conor McGregor tap out. Not easy to do. Of course, Anthony Adele powerbombed a Ninja Turtle off the top of the cage and then drove an elbow off the top of him. And the youngest of the Adeles, now a lot of people think that maybe, Troy is, he's young and he's not going to be as fearsome as his brothers are. That isn't true. Anyone who watched the show knows there was one point Troy had already advanced and won his division, took the whole thing, because the other person in his round he had to face was another newcomer, was Lincoln Brooks. And Troy, and I swear it was the most horrific. If you thought it was horrific to watch Anthony Adele throw powerbomb a turtle off the cage to a table, then drove an elbow. That was one thing. But Troy Odell, the terror as we call him, he threw poor Lincoln Brooks off the top of the cage, and that ended up how he won his advance, because it was just nothing you could do about getting thrown off the top of a 50-foot cage. Goes to show that he is just as ruthless as his brothers are, and he won his division. So, again, all of these young men are the future of the UFC, the future of the Olympic wrestling team. They are all going to do huge things, I believe. They are the epitome of athletes. The Menu boys, the Adele boys, the other people I mentioned already, the Leo the Bull Curtises, the JoJo the bodybuilders. These are pure athletes, folks. These are the people who, if you want to say that you are the best at something, you need to go and find them out first. Grayson the Super Duck Russell. All of the Noah the Nightmare Tyndall. These are all names. If you want to prove yourself as a fighter, if you want to say that I am the best at something, these are the people you need to sort out. I'm talking about in real life people. And by the way, I'm talking about as far as competition goes, and I'm talking about as building a name for yourself. When I was doing martial arts many years ago, we didn't have Instagram. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all of these social media outlets to share all of our things. In fact, when I was doing martial arts, starting at 5 all the way till I was 18, most of those early years, we didn't even have you didn't even talk about doing martial arts outside of school because it was seen as something that would cause people to bully you even worse or cause things to get out. It was not respected in the 80s and the 90s to do martial arts. I know that's shocking, right? From my point of view, it makes me very happy to see how things have changed in that aspect. But in the 80s, you didn't go to school and say, oh yeah, I do jujitsu outside, or I do martial arts outside here, or I do tournaments on the weekend. Because if you did, the other kids were merciful. And there was no mats there. You had to be ready. You had to have your head on a swivel. And it was a dangerous thing. So, but now it is a sign of respect if you can go in there and compete. And now it's something that is kind of mutually and universally accepted as something that everyone can do. Back then, if you were a male, I'm talking about from a male's point of view. I can't speak from the female's point of view. I wasn't female. But from the male's point of view, they were merciful. They were merciless. If you were doing martial arts, you were seen as the same thing as someone who did ballet, which, by the way, I have no problem with people who do ballet or theater. But if you did any of those things outside of school, you were not seen as, quote, the boy's boy. You weren't playing basketball or hockey or what they call football. Then as things got on, they just, found other sports that they would become part of that. But we're going to get into that in our last little thing where we do little clothing thoughts and so forth. But again, I want to shout out these people again. Elliot Fulham, Little Punk People, that's his dad, and also his amazing wife. I love those people, tremendous. Josie, you're a great girlfriend. Elliot's lucky to have you guys. You guys are a cute couple, and I wish you guys all the best. Monster Mania, Dave Hagen, love you guys. I look forward to seeing everyone at Monster Mania in August. Anyone who is not going to Monster Mania in August, why not? See you there. Gus Jeffers, happy birthday, and congratulations on all your success. We hope to have you soon. Ivan the Dolphin Shark, happy birthday. Gabriel Sajes, we look forward to having you on the podcast. You are a very talented young man, and you have a very long history, I can tell, and you're going to have a very bright future ahead of you. I can believe in that. And again, very, 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 very cultural young man. We look forward to having you on and meeting you guys here. Leo the Bull Curtis, Lucas Royalty, the very talented and comedic, charismatic Finn S. Allen, who, again, warning ahead of time, you will fall down the rabbit hole of Finn Allen's page. Just too many funny things at once, and just, there you go. Jojo the Bodybuilder, and of course, his brother, Noah, and of course, all of his families are amazing people. Mike in List 25, Anthony the Hunter, Mason the Hammer, Ty the Devil, and Troy the Terra Adele, the Adele boys, and their dad. Happy belated Father's Day to him as well. And happy belated Father's Day to Tad as well. Ted, who is JoJo's dad, happy belated Father's Day to him, and all the other dads who I might have missed on the way. Sorry about that. Henry and Jairo Mena, the Mena boys, who we're hoping to come back on the podcast again. Two of the most respectful young men and feared men in the locker room. Young men. The New Zealand family. I don't remember saying their name other than the podcast. Sam, Nadine, Denzel in Atlanta. We love your videos on YouTube. You guys are fantastic human beings. You guys over there in New Zealand. Denzel and Sam have already won titles on our show. We're going to have to see how Atlanta and Nadine do when they debut on our Dream Warriors show next month. Yep, on the 9th, Atlanta and Nadine make their in-ring debuts. Get ready for that as the New Zealand family grows and gets epic, even more so. And Noah, the Nightmare Tyndall, of course, from Liverpool, England. The Nightmare Noah Tyndall, very tough and feared young man, making the haters run and hide in fear. There's nice shout-outs, and again, I look forward to having you guys all on eventually, and I respect all of you guys for all individual and good for you guys. Always keeping all of your things in check, going after your goals and dreams, And a bit of a thing, in life you're going to have people who are going to tell you no. They're going to have people who are going to give you your critiques. What I'm going to say to you all is whenever they complain about how bad you're doing or something they don't like, just know that you're the one doing it. While they're sitting at home just saying what they can say. But they are not doing what each and every single one of you are actually achieving or are doing. Does that make sense? In other words, many people will tell you what you're doing wrong and actually not do anything at all. Keep up the great work, all of you guys. I'm proud of you guys and happy to support you all and welcome you here to the F4L Headquarters where you're always welcome. All right, folks. And now I'm going to have my friends the ants take you out of here to our next segment as we're going to be doing film reviews. Get ready. Guys, take it away. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. We are here now to do 2 film reviews. You know, my wife and I, recently, we've been noticing a new trend. And the trend that we've been noticing is, for some reason, somehow, it has become a thing that... Sorry about that, folks. Take care of little things here. It's become a trend lately that, for some reason, these films that are highly regarded as classics today, winners of Oscars and awards, celebrated. Have you guys ever had this issue where you've seen movies that everyone talked about how so great they were, or a TV show, but when you actually get to see them for yourself, you're like, wait, that was the great movie? Did we miss something? Well, this has been a trend that my wife and I have been noticing for a little while. Not only us, and not only everyone else, but we can only talk for ourselves. And here's the first thing to say. By no means am I going to say that my wife and I always agree on every single movie. In fact, it's very much opposite. My wife and I very rarely have the same opinion on the same thing. Not in wrestling, not in television, not in music, not in movies, nothing. We don't generally have the same tastes in a lot of those things. Yes, we might still like wrestling. We do love movies. We love the same kinds of genres, but doesn't mean we like the same types of things. My wife is a fan of Wonder Woman. I am a fan of the Punishers and the Deadpools of the world. My wife enjoys AEW. I couldn't be bothered. Both of us were former champions in wrestling. Both of us got married in a wrestling ring. So that's the kind of link, right? We both were, around wrestling. We both love films. We love horror movies. My wife and I don't agree on the same horror movies. It just happens. Same thing with sports and everything else. But however, so what I found interesting is, as of late, we have seen movies, my wife and I, we've watched the same way, and we've shared the same opinions on them. But yet, when we hear other people do film reviews on certain movies, it's not the same. They're highly regarded, and they're highly respected. A good example. In the horror community, a lot of people love the movie Barbarian. Oh, great movie, love Barbarian. My wife and I did not like Barbarian. We didn't enjoy it. We thought it was lame. We didn't think it made any sense. It was over-the-top graphic for no apparent reason. We didn't enjoy it, but yet everyone in the horror community said how wonderful it is. Now, what's good about the horror community is it's a respectful one, that people in the horror community aren't going to bombard me and say, well, how dare you not like that movie? That's not how that works in the horror community. As our friend Tim said last week, it's a very diverse community where everyone's okay to like Freddy and Jason, or either one, and no one judges you for being a Freddy girl or a JC girl. You're still respecting the same genre, right? However, when you are a film critic, and you're someone who gives a review on something, not just in film, but any kind of thing you're giving a review on, it is your integrity that people, respect. It's your opinions and your ability to dispatch, your knowledge, but telling to the general audience of what they can expect and what they're going to like. It's your duty as a film critic or a food critic or a book critic to give constructive criticism. I say constructive criticism and not hate and not despise, not, run off with the thing. When I say something about something, I'm giving critiques and I'm saying what was good, what isn't good. I give honest feedback, but I stand by it. I'm not going to be pulled one way or the other. I'm not going to have someone say, hey, we'll sponsor your video if you give our film a good review. I don't work that way. I'm going to give you a good review, or I'm going to give you a review in general, whether it's good or bad. I give reviews of things I'm never asked for, but regardless, integrity is what a reviewer is what your audience looks for, and your ability to be able to explain different aspects. So, when we saw The Barbarian, for example, neither one of us enjoyed any part of it. Not the cast, not the acting, not the delivery, not the story. But yet, everyone in the film horror community loved this movie, raved about it. So, there's that aspect. But then the Oscars, right? Because we all know horror movies are never going to be nominated or win an Oscar, gosh forbid. Even though some of the horror movies are probably the best films ever created, on the lowest budget, which is probably why they lose the Oscars to the big blockbuster budget movies. However, so those people who've listened to this show before have heard me do some reviews recently on my own, on a couple of them. And my wife and I had watched... I actually had to wait to do this review until I watched the movie with my wife last night in order to give the full review on both of these. I actually watched 3. My wife wouldn't watch the 3rd because she was not into it. So, I'm going to take this year's Oscar nominees, this year's Oscar contenders for Best Picture, okay? I'm going to tell you guys the films that were nominated this year for Best Picture. Give me 1 second, folks. Again, we don't do anything writing down. I just know where I'm going. Give me 1 second. Alright, so let me read to you guys this year's nominees for the Academy Awards. Okay? The nominees for this year's for the 2023 Academy Awards: Top Gun: Maverick, Women Talking, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, Banshees of Inisherin, Triangle of Sadness, The Fabelmans, All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, Elvis, and Tar. Those are your Best Picture nominees this year. Out of those movies, the winner was Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. In fact, that movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, I'm going to tell you the exact total. 1 second, folks. All right. So, the Academy Awards, ready? So, for this, again, won Best Picture. It won Best Actress in Michelle Yeoh in a leading role. It won Best Supporting Role in Jamie Lee Curtis. It won Best Supporting Actor, Ki Hwan Kwan, which, by the way, we're not arguing that. Nor are we arguing Michelle Yeoh. Best Director. Best Writing, or screenplay, original screenplay. Best editing. Looking for specifically the Academy Awards. Anywho, those are, I'm looking at this list. They're all over the place. They have all these things, right? Guess what? Bad news. My wife and I, who never agree upon anything really, we agree this movie is one of the most overrated movies we've ever seen in our lives. I know. Everyone's very upset, probably. Gasps are everywhere. Hold on. This is probably what you guys are doing. But, in all fairness, there's no justification for this. Okay, that's enough of the punchline. Please, thank you. That's enough of that. Anywho. Okay, Michelle Yeoh and Ki Hwan Kwan did fantastic in their roles in this, whatever it was. But Best Picture, neither one of us agreed it was a great movie, because it was really hard to follow. We did understand the premise, and it was about 3 hours, about an hour and a half too long to get to the same premise, which absolutely no... You'd have to actually have some type of college degree to understand the premise of this film. We did understand it. And if you did understand the premise by the end of the movie, great. But they could have done that movie within an hour and a half. But it just, absurdness of this film was everywhere. It wasn't necessary all at once. At all. Ki Hwan Kwan did great. Jada, we love him. He did great. He earned his degree because he held this movie together. Michelle Yeoh and him, all honesty, if it wasn't for either one of these people for holding this movie at all, this whole thing would have been gone because it was awful. They are the only saving grace of this film. Their performances, because they had to put up with all kinds of nonsense to be in this film. Okay, cool. All right. Now, let me tell you who was up against Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm going to give you the Best Supporting Actress nominees for this same year. So, nominated, ready? Oh my goodness. Oh man. Jamie Lee Curtis, who by the way won, Angela Bassett, Kerry Condon, Stephanie Hsu, for Also Everywhere, Always at Once, and Hong Chow from The Whale. Alright, well, now, here's some fun news. I've seen every single one of these movies that are nominated. I've seen Black Panther. Okay. Angela Bassett, a lot of respect for her, but not so much. Jamie Lee Curtis is nominated for Everything, Always, and Everywhere at Once, and won. She is barely in the movie. Her role in the movie is minuscule at best, and it was not nearly as intimate. It was nowhere near as important or vital as Stephanie Hsu's character, who ultimately, I believe, my wife and I watching it the first time, because we didn't see Banshees or The Whale yet, based upon that, we believe that Stephanie Hsu got robbed and that Jamie Lee Curtis was just given the award because she's Jamie Lee Curtis. That's not how you're supposed to win awards, people. You win awards for your work. And if you watch Everything, Always, and Everywhere at Once, and you tell me Jamie Lee Curtis's role in that film is better than Stephanie Hsu, who has to have all kinds of input, putting up with all the rest of the shenanigans in this absurd movie, then you would also feel that Stephanie got robbed. However, I have seen The Whale as of last night. My wife and I watched it together. Yeah, it does not end as happy as you might want it to, but it's not about how it ends. It's about how the story's told. Does it make sense? Is it easy premise? How are the characters? How is the story developed? How is the story told? How do the characters behave in those roles? Can I believe these things? Hong Chow did an amazing job in The Whale after watching that last night. Fantastic performance by her. And my wife did not watch Banshees. You know, my Irish heritage comes into play there. I watched it with no issues. I loved Colin Farrell. I think Colin Farrell did an amazing job in his performance. But Kerry Condon, who played his sister in Banshees, she was an amazing character in this movie as well. I did have issue with her name in the movie. Didn't like that so much, no offense. But she did a great job. Stephanie Hasu did an amazing job. Hong Chow did an amazing job. The Whale, the Banshees, even Stephanie Hasu for her role in Everything Always. The same thing that Jamie Lee Curtis won Best Supporting Actress. Nonsense. Shenanigans, I'm going to say, in a comical way. But all honesty, why? Why was Jamie Lee Curtis's role in that movie better than the performance by Stephanie Hasu? Stephanie Hasu had to do a heck of a lot more with this absurd premise of this film than Jamie Lee Curtis did. And I don't want people to get upset and think that I'm hating on Jamie Lee Curtis. It's not that at all. I'm talking about performance-wise. I can respect someone and still think that they did it. There was someone better. And in this category, there are 3 women in this category that I feel did a much better job and had much more of an intricate role in their film's storytelling, development, and everything else than Jamie Lee Curtis did for playing a office worker? Seriously? Why? I'm going to blow the spoiler alert for you. Not completely. I'm just going to tell you what her character is, Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis plays, a tax auditor? Stephanie Hasu plays the daughter of Michelle Ho and Kao Han Kwan, who held the movie together. If anyone's watched this movie, you tell me Jamie Lee Curtis went way outside her zone better than Stephanie did in that role. However, then go back and watch Hong Chow in The Whale and tell me that Jamie Lee Curtis did a better job than she did and had a more intricate role than she did. Or Kerry Condon from Banshees, who outside of Colin Farrell, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really know a lot of her work prior to this. I know Colin Farrell and I didn't know anyone else in this film. But she did a fantastic job, which she had to put up with it in this movie. Colin Farrell knocked it out of the park, but Kerry did a great job. Stephanie Hasu got robbed. Hao Chong should have won probably the Oscar for the Best Supporting Actress, if I were being honest. Because what a performance she did in The Whale. Anyway, that's that occasion. So, now let's go back to the best films of this year. Hold on. You know, I did have the ability to check these things ahead of time and have these things ready. But you know what I felt? I said, I want to do these things directly for you guys. Let me read off for you guys the winners of all of this year's Academy Award winners, okay? So, again, Best Picture, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Again, I disagree. Best Actor, Brendan Fraser for The Whale. Fantastic performance, well-deserved, and he did deserve to win. What a great job he did. Welcome back, Brendan Fraser. Michelle Yeoh for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. All honesty, for what she had to put up with this in the movie, yes, she deserved to win that for putting up with that. I'm afraid to know who she was up against, but she did a great job in that. considering what she had to put up with in the role. Skipping over the little things because you guys don't care about those little things. I do, but you guys won't. Jamie Lee Curtis for Best Supporting Actress. Again, I just went over why that's not the thing. Danielle Kwan. Danielle Kwan, Best Director for this? Really? How do you direct such a movie that is so confusing that doesn't make any sense to the general audience to tell a story that could be kind of made in an hour and a half with about another hour and a half of just fluff that doesn't belong there, confusing the audience, absurd jokes, graphic, all kinds of things, just to push the envelope to see what you can get away with. I'm afraid to know who, you know what, I gotta find out who was nominated against. I can't wait to find out. Let's see who was nominated against Best Director. I can't wait. I can't wait to see. Best Director nominations. To be honest with you, we did watch. Oh, are you kidding me? Okay. All right. So this year's Best Director nominations. Danielle Kwan won, if you would. Oh, he shares that with Daniel Shurit. By the way, both of you guys are awful, by the way. I just want to say that. Disagree with you guys winning at all. Martin McDough defeated him for Banshees of Inisherin. I'm not saying it was the greatest movie I've ever seen, but I understood the premise, and it might not have ended the way it should have, but at least, I cared about the characters. I knew they were going for. Everyone did a great job for what they had. I didn't see Tar yet. I didn't see Triangle of Sadness yet. I did see Fabelmans, however, which was directed by Steven Spielberg. Fabelmans was a much better film than Everything Everywhere All at Once, but we gave it to them for reasons. All right, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Look, the moral of the story is this. My wife and I, who barely agree upon the same things, we agree that Everything Everywhere All at Once was overrated. That Jamie Lee Curtis, as much as we respect her in her roles, and as much as we love her in other things, this was not an Oscar-winning nominated performance that she deserved. There were far better, more qualified, and more deserving performances by other supporting actresses who should have gotten the nomination. Sorry, Jamie Lee Curtis. But I'm not sorry, I'm honest. And Best Director, again. Fabelmans, I don't know if I saw that in the Best Picture nominations, but really? I would take Steven Spielberg over these other guys, considering I didn't like the movie to begin with. How do you direct a movie that has absolutely no direction, that's so confusing and confounded by absurdity that's what you bank on? You're basically what this film reminds me of is the same things that people hate Family Guy for, being so random and kind of thrown together. That's what this movie reminds me of. Just random things happening for random reasons. No real rhyme or reason. There is no reason for half of the things that are in this film. But, again, the film review, The Whale, bring me back to that. We watched that last night together, and we both agreed we liked the movie. It wasn't even nominated for Best Picture, oddly enough. Maybe it's because it didn't end the way people wanted it to. Maybe. I'm not going to spoil the ending for you. I do recommend you watch it. I do recommend also bringing a box of tissues. This is something I don't necessarily have an issue with, but I can tell you that my wife definitely did. And here's something else I can tell you. My wife, who's a very emotional person. 1 second, folks. I'm emotional talking about movies. My wife, who is a very emotional person when it comes to watching films, television, etc., music, who knows, she will cry when something strikes her as sad-worthy. In Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, she didn't cry at all through any of the movie. None of it. In fact, the look on her face whenever I looked at her was the same look on mine. Utter confusion. And the finger pointing at the TV as in, what is this we're watching? Eventually, maybe it'll get better. Justifying anything we could. Trying to find something nice and redeeming of it. The Whale we didn't have that issue with. She was very emotionally attached to the whole premise, the movie. It's touched her. Cried several times. I don't cry at films. It doesn't mean I am a iron, person. I don't have emotions. I do. Something has to, strike me in such a way. So I might have the feeling that I'm going to be sad, but I don't. I definitely felt for the character. I definitely felt for the people in this film. I definitely could see this whole premise. It made sense to me. It was a sad reality. I know people in this situation. It's not healthy at all, and a great, well done movie. In all honesty, it hit all of the categories. So those people who know how I rate movies, you guys know I look at 4 different elements. First is the story and the plot. Second is the casting. Third is the location, the setting. The fourth and the final is the feeling at the end of the movie. So, The Whale, in that aspect, plot made sense. It was sad and depressing. It might not have had the great ending you wanted, or it may or may not have. But, it definitely made sense. I could definitely not identify, but I could definitely have remorse and have empathy for the characters involved. It made sense in that aspect. And it also, that aspect, the acting-wise, again, Hong got robbed of the supporting actress. She was fantastic in this movie. There were other people who popped in. Ty Simpkins, how about him? I didn't even know he was in The Whale, but you know what? Got to give Ty some credit there. I didn't even know Ty Simpkins was in The Whale. Ty Simpkins, you guys might know from Insidious, which he's going to be in the new Insidious movie, by the way, returning to his role. Ty is someone who I believe to be one of the most genuine celebrities out there who doesn't feel that he is over the top from anybody else. He is one of those people who does interact with people. He is a people person, respectful young man. I've had many interactions with him, and a very nice young man is Ty Simpkins. He was in this out of nowhere, and interesting role for him, and he nailed it. Actually, every performance in this movie was nailed, and I honestly think that Brendan Fraser held the whole thing down, no pun intended, like an anchor, and everyone just well done there. And also, there wasn't a great deal of cast. It was a short cast. You don't need that many. It was fantastically done. Liked it. Short, sweet, short cast. You don't need a lot of people to be successful, just enough to tell the story, and they did. So there's that. Timing and the setting. Yeah, I don't really know. This apparently took place either during or after the 2020s when everyone was locked away. But in that aspect, I won't usually watch movies that have that as a premise because I just, again, don't give me things to worry about or give me things to remind me about how horrible things are when I see good in them. Sometimes in some aspects. And then the other part of it is the fact that I have been blessed enough to, I think it's an important thing to be noted that I didn't matter when it was. It made sense. It was good timing. It was very, it was always seemed to be raining and sad and wet in this movie, so I guess it fit the premise of the whole thing, and it didn't seem to go long. And the last aspect that we're going to chat about is, the feeling at the end of the movie. What do you take away? And honestly, the thing you take away is the fact that it was a great performance by a talented crew, cast, director, and everything else. That's what it is. So there you have it. So there's that part of it as well. The wife came home from work just now, so you know, folks. Yeah, she is. She's saying hi. I made her dinner, even though she told me not to. I made her dinner anyway because I'm a nice husband. Anyway, Anyway, folks, that's that review on The Whale. Let's talk about the really quick one. It's a short film called A Young Pirate's Tale. And, of course, that features a person we just talked about, Finn S. Allen. And it was directed by Sally McDonald. Great job for a short film. Also, there is some conflicts in trying to make a film where it's being narrated and being told in a certain way, and for a lead in a film not to have to say anything, but actually tell a story without having to say anything. That kind of trips over itself, right? No, not really. You see, if you're able to tell a story without actually verbalizing a story, and you're able to convert a message without actually using verbal dialogue, that's a very important skill to have. And our talented friend Finn Allen did that effortlessly in this film. Apparently this is his first feature film, short film, and he nailed it as far as, being able to give dialogue without dialogue at first, hold the camera's attention, tell a story without actually using dialogue or words, with expressions and old-fashioned method acting. And then when he did have lines and dialogue, delivered them with perfection, with empathy, with elegance, and with perfection. The people around him, the woman who played his mom, and a very short cast. Again, short film doesn't need to have everyone in the world. Great job. Short, sweet, to the point. Told a great message. In the four principles, even in a short film, you could take the same four principles. Is the plot? Yes, a lot of people can understand the plot and the understanding of loss and trying to, overcome that aspect and how sad it can be and hard it is to get over the loss of a loved one. The cast, I went over that. The mom was a very, the woman who played the mom did a great job portraying how a mom would react in such a thing, concern for her son, but also not being too pushy or whatever, being sympathetic and empathetic to the situation. Also, that certain amount of frustration you build as a parent when you want to get help from your kids, but you can't get the help. You don't want to help, but you don't know how. I can understand that. Being a parent, I can understand that situation. And then everyone else, these little roles here and there, everyone did a great job, kind of tying everything together. Everyone seemed to have a point. Does, I guess, a gentleman friend who comes around, I guess he's got romantic feelings for the mom, whatever, cool. Again, I gotta say, Finn really is the one that really held this movie. Again, as a lead, that's really the job as the lead, to hold the whole crew and the cast and the film. But to hold the movie on your back, ultimately, to have the audience be so engaged with you as a character in your performance, to see what's going to happen next without actually having to say a lot of words, or even being that as a selling point, waiting to see when is this person going to talk, and being able to keep that audience intrigued is a gift and a talent in its own right. So if the wrong person was casted in this, it wouldn't have worked as well. So Finn nailed it, and he is really probably the biggest success of this. Because if you had a character who wasn't able to do that so well, it would have probably not been as successful. And the little pirate's tale, or the young pirate's tale, is in fact, a great metaphor, a great life lesson. But also on top of that, there's a lot of other things that can be taken out of that as well. The delivery, how to get over things, and how to, kind of move on ultimately. I thought it was really well done for the short time it was on. It wasn't long. It was right to the point. It's a great job by everyone. I know why it won a bunch of awards. Well worthy. As a filmmaker, I respect everyone part of it. So great job. So they have that. And I'm going to have more reviews for you guys later and more things at another time. I have been going on now for about 2 hours and 10 minutes right now. It's exciting. So we've already gone over the icons of the F4L. We've done the shout-outs. I've done film reviews. I did give my 2 cents on a couple different aspects of things during the course of everything else. And I apologize if, people were kind of baffled by the way I kind of place things in ways that you guys can see them when they need to be. But in order to tell a story about a certain person or a thing, you'd have to be able to kind of go off a cuff and actually give the backstory to who these people are and why they're important, why they're in, with different things. I did want to add, this is my kind of final thoughts, I guess you'd say, of this episode, which is a new segment I should really into play. So let's get my ants to my final part of it. Stick around. All right, thank you guys. I bet you guys are jealous you don't have an ant band to accompany you to your show. Anyway, thanks, ants. My final thoughts for this episode, again, thank everyone. Thank everyone. I want to say I appreciate everyone for all that they do, and I also know that one of the reasons I do this show is because I am someone who defied the odds, and whenever they said I couldn't do something, I found a way and I made it happen. I live by defiance, but I succeed in my goals. Goals are important to have, and I do encourage each of you guys to find whatever the goal is that you have. And, goals are a thing that I think is underrated. I think there's something that people can learn and get help from. And everyone has different goals. Let's take some of the people we talked about today. Everyone has different goals and different dreams. F.S. Allen is a very talented actor, but Gus Jeffers is a talented musician. So is Gabriel Sahaz. Sorry, I slipped over my tongue there. Gabriel Sahaz and Gabriel Jeffers might have maybe have a different music genres than each other. JoJo the Bodybuilder definitely has different goals in mind than the Adele Boys or the Menu Boys. And the Adele Boys and the Menu Boys, all different people. They might have all different kinds of goals and aspirations, even though they're kind of in the same field, if you would. Doesn't mean necessarily have the same end goal. It's okay to be different. It's okay to have your own individual goals, as long as one, it's your goal. And 2, you put your heart into it, and you get ready to go in and bury your teeth into it. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. No matter what the goal is in the end game, whether it be entertainment, music, acting, whatever the case may be, you're going to have times where people are going to doubt you, people are going to hate on you, people are going to talk smack to you, people are going to be trolls. And here's what I say to you. Do like we all do. Just remember, at the end of the day, you're the one who is standing on the stage. You're the one who's on the mat. You're the one who's in the ring. You're the one who is in front of the camera while all of them are sitting watching you at the end of the day. At the end of the day, people can hate on you all they want, but at the end of the day, you're the one who's actually going out there and doing what they wish they could do. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to, a sense of ultimately jealousy on their part, envy. Honestly, they could do what you do if they had your determination, your discipline. The fact of the matter is they don't. And maybe they have different goals. But again, respecting each other's differences. So, yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope the air conditioner didn't throw things off at this towards the end. And I look forward to another episode and hopefully having a guest on the show next time, as we have some in the works. Till next time, everyone, may all your dreams come true. I am the F4L icon, Sean Jazz Stevens. Peace, everybody. Get home safe.